Step 1, nobody saw this coming. What looked like just another disappointing night for the Indiana Fever may have ended up being a turning point in the growing conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White. And if you've been following this team all season, you already understand why fans are reacting so strongly. For months, the same question has continued to surface. Why does it seem like the Fever aren't fully maximizing the talents of their most dynamic player? Every game reignites the debate, and after what happened tonight, those discussions are louder than ever. If you're a Caitlin Clark supporter and believe the Fever should lean more heavily into her strengths and playmaking abilities, share your thoughts in the comments below.
Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark on the bench yelling at each other. Talking about some defensive nonsense. My hands are straight up. I'm going straight up. Hey, you, sit down, take your seat. Caitlin, get your ass up. Caitlin shaking her head. Nope. This coach is an idiot. Nope. This coach is a dumbass. Nope. This coach is foolish. Nope. She's got no idea what she's talking about.
What have you done to be talking to Caitlin Clark? You ain't done nothing, Stephanie White. You a trash-ass coach.
Do you guys feel like any of the officiating rule changes are impacting how you're able to play as a team defensively?
Officiating wasn't my problem tonight.
The officiating wasn't my problem tonight. You see what her problem was. It's that damn trash-ass head coach, Stephanie White.
The frustration that fans have been talking about all season appeared to reach a new level on the sidelines. During one of the Indiana Fever's most difficult stretches, cameras caught an intense moment between Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White. Clark looked frustrated. White appeared upset. Teammates nearby seemed to sense the tension, and what followed only intensified the conversation. As the game continued, Indiana struggled to find offensive rhythm. Momentum slipped away, possessions became increasingly difficult, and several coaching decisions left fans searching for answers. Meanwhile, Clark spent portions of the game on the bench, a sight that immediately sparked debate across social media. Before long, the online discussion shifted away from the final score. Fans weren't focused on the officiating or even the opposing team. Instead, much of the attention centered on the apparent disconnect between Clark and White and what it might mean for the Fever moving forward. The discussion isn't entirely new. Throughout the season, analysts, former players, and basketball commentators have questioned whether Indiana is getting the most out of Clark's extraordinary talents. This is a player who rewrote the NCAA record books, drew unprecedented attention to women's basketball, and possesses the rare ability to stretch defenses far beyond the three-point line. Her shooting range and playmaking can fundamentally change how opponents defend an entire game. That's why many observers continue to ask the same question. Is Indiana fully utilizing one of the most unique offensive talents the sport has seen in years? When Clark appears less involved or unable to play freely within the offense, fans notice immediately, and those questions only grow louder.
Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark, bumping heads on the sideline. Stephanie White showing up her star player on the bench, saying, "Get the F out of your seat. Raven Johnson, take her spot." I don't care how many hugs they have. I don't care how many times Stephanie White pulls Caitlin Clark close by her hip. I don't care how many glowingly things Stephanie White says about Caitlin Clark in these radio interviews. You can't sit here and convince me Stephanie White actually respects Caitlin Clark. She sees Caitlin Clark and she hates everything about her. Why? Because Caitlin Clark is everything Stephanie White failed to become. Stephanie White was brought in to diminish, tear down, and ruin the Golden Goose. She's doing a hell of a job.
What made the situation even more intriguing was what happened after the game. When reporters asked Caitlin Clark about officiating and defensive challenges, her response immediately grabbed attention. Rather than focusing on the referees, Clark shifted the conversation elsewhere, leading many observers to wonder what was really weighing on her mind. For fans who have followed the Fever all season, the frustration didn't seem to come out of nowhere. Questions have repeatedly surfaced whenever Clark was taken out during productive stretches, moved away from her primary playmaking role, or placed in offensive situations that appeared to limit her impact. Over time, every controversial substitution, every stagnant offensive sequence, and every difficult stretch without Clark on the floor became part of a larger discussion. Then came the emotional sideline moment, and suddenly those concerns felt impossible for many fans to ignore. Images and clips spread rapidly online, fueling debate about whether the visible frustration reflected deeper issues within the team. When a franchise player shows emotion, people pay attention. When one of the league's biggest stars appears frustrated, the spotlight becomes even brighter. And when that player has helped bring unprecedented attention to women's basketball, every interaction is analyzed from every angle. But according to many commentators and fans, the conversation now extends far beyond one exchange on the bench. The focus has shifted toward broader questions about team identity, player development, and whether the Fever are putting their best players in positions to succeed.
Stephanie White yelling at Cece on the sidelines about defense, but Raven Johnson, who was supposed to be a defensive specialist, fouled out playing only 10 minutes and not a peep from Stephanie White. Stephanie White doesn't hold all the other players accountable. That's not what happens. Never hear her holding Aaliyah Boston accountable. Never hear her holding Dantis accountable. Never hear her holding Kelsey Mitchell accountable. Never hear her holding anybody accountable that's not named Caitlin Clark.
This is where the discussion moves beyond a single moment and into a much larger debate about the Indiana Fever's direction. Many fans point to a recurring pattern. Whenever Caitlin Clark finds a rhythm, pushing the pace, creating scoring opportunities, and forcing defenses to adjust, the team's offense often appears energized and dangerous. When that momentum disappears, supporters naturally begin questioning what changed. As a result, criticism surrounding coaching decisions has grown louder throughout the season. For many fans, the frustration isn't simply about wins and losses. It's about whether the team is maximizing the talents of one of the most influential players in the sport today. Clark's impact extends well beyond the court. She has helped attract record audiences, increase national attention on the WNBA, and become one of the most recognizable athletes in basketball. Because of that influence, every decision involving her role is heavily scrutinized. Supporters often argue that Indiana's offensive identity should revolve more consistently around Clark's strengths as a playmaker and floor spacer. At times, however, fans feel the offense lacks a clear direction, leading to questions about how the team can best utilize its personnel moving forward. That's one reason the sideline exchange generated so much discussion. To many observers, it wasn't necessarily about one play or one substitution. Instead, it appeared to reflect broader frustrations tied to expectations, team performance, and the ongoing challenge of building a successful system around elite talent.
Stephanie White yelling at Caitlin about defense like she's a problem. Cece said, babes, I'm going straight up. What else do you want me to do? Steph White said, fuck out my face. I'm putting Raven Johnson in. 22 gets up. Raven sits down. Raven fouls out in 10 minutes of playtime. Raven Johnson can't play now, or you can't coach properly.
What makes the conversation even more significant is the growing focus on Indiana's future. There is no public indication that Caitlin Clark wants to leave the organization, nor is there evidence of any trade discussions. However, as the Fever continues searching for consistency, fans have naturally begun asking difficult questions about the team's long-term direction. Can Indiana build an offense that fully highlights Clark's unique abilities? Can the team develop the chemistry and structure needed to compete at the highest level? And can the organization turn flashes of potential into sustained success? Those questions have become increasingly common because many people view this season as an important stage in the franchise's development. For that reason, moments of visible frustration tend to attract even greater attention. When a role player shows emotion during a game, it may go largely unnoticed. When one of the league's biggest stars does the same, it becomes a major storyline. Every reaction is analyzed, every comment is discussed, and every challenge becomes part of a larger narrative. That reality has only increased the pressure surrounding the Fever as they attempt to meet the high expectations that followed them into the season.
Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark seen yelling back and forth at each other on the bench. Stephanie White doesn't seem to realize it's not Caitlin Clark's defense as much as it is her terrible schemes defensively. She sees Caitlin Clark and she sees herself, but not as a success story. She sees herself as a failure, like, damn, that could have been me. No, it couldn't have been you.
The Indiana Fever entered the year with significant expectations. Many believed the team was ready to take a major step forward and establish itself as a legitimate contender. Instead, much of the conversation has centered on inconsistency, lineup decisions, and ongoing debates about how the team's star players are being utilized. For any organization, that's a difficult position to be in. Winning has a way of quieting criticism and easing tension. But when results are inconsistent, every decision receives greater scrutiny. Small disagreements become larger discussions, and moments of frustration quickly turn into headlines. The biggest question facing Indiana now is whether the team can make the adjustments necessary to unlock its full potential. Can the Fever find a consistent identity? Can they create a system that brings out the best in their roster? And can they turn growing expectations into sustained success on the court? One thing is certain, Caitlin Clark remains at the center of the conversation. Her performance, leadership, and development will continue to shape the future of the franchise. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the Indiana Fever right now? Is it coaching, roster construction, team chemistry, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts below.